Hey guys and gals, hope everyone's doing well. So if you have a Porsche 911 991.2 Carrera that is tuned, you may be very interested in this video. If your turboed 911 991.2 is not one that is tuned, perhaps this video won't be of interest to you. So just wanted to put that out there because what we're going to be talking about is a product by a company called P3 Gauges that allows you to install a gauge in your dash that has somewhat of an OEM look to it that gives you more accurate boost pressure readings than you can get from the factory configured instrument cluster, which limits the amount of boost pressure that it will show you. So I know in this particular vehicle, the limit for a 991.2 Carrera S is 17. Now, I do have a Softronic tune installed on this vehicle, and I do believe that the boost pressures may actually be exceeding that. And the only way to really know is either you have to somehow find a way to reprogram the instrument cluster, which can be done. You do have to have a tool that both reads and writes the ECU so that you can reconfigure the instrument cluster. But the other way to do it is just to get a gauge that you can plug in directly to the OBD2 port, which is under the dash. And with that, you can get actual boost pressure readings directly from the sensors that are installed in the vehicle. And you can get all kinds of readings that you don't actually necessarily get accurate readings of on the instrument cluster. For example, water temperature. The coolant temperature gauge on the instrument cluster is also somewhat artificially controlled. And so if you have this vehicle, you know that when there's a range that it will only show you 194 degrees, and you can go higher than that and it'll stay at 194 until you reach another threshold. Well, with the type of issues that this car has been known to have with coolant pump failures, it'd be nice to know what the actual temperatures are. And just in general, there's this gauge that I'm going to be talking about gives you a lot more information than that you don't necessarily get from the instrument cluster. So just to show you real quick, where this gauge is going to install is right here in the lower part of the air vent on the left side of the steering column. And let me just take you over to show you what it is. So here it is. Let me open up the box. This is what it looks like, just like that. And when it's installed, let me get it over here. When it's installed, it will look like that, but a lot cooler, because obviously you see it's got that clear plastic film over it, which is just there to protect it so it doesn't get scratched until it's installed. And then I'm going to have to, in order to install this, I'm going to have to remove this air vent. And to do that, there's 3 steps. You have to first remove this trim piece here around the ignition and the headlight control. You also have to remove this side piece here, and then this just kind of slides out. You do need to use like a trim tool to do that. But anyways, so I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to structure this video. I don't know if I'm going to do like a DIY on the installation, or, I'm going to figure that out as I go. But I do want to actually tell you, and I have a cheat sheet here, so you'll have to just bear with me. But I do want to tell you about some of the other things that this gauge does. So bear with me as I look down at my cheat sheet. But in addition to giving you accurate boost readings from the OEM sensors, it does a whole list of other things. It gives you coolant temperature, air-fuel ratio, vehicle speed, intake air temperature, throttle angle, ignition timing, engine RPM, exhaust gas temperature, battery voltage. It's got a programmable shift light, which we already have on the OEM instrument cluster, as well as some of the other stuff like battery voltage. But you have to kind of like, on the OEM instrument cluster, you have to pick and choose. This really gives you everything in one gauge. I mean, you have to cycle through in order to see all these things, but we'll see how that works once it's installed. It also has a couple of analog inputs, so if you want to add some additional readings, you can do that. And a couple cool things that this has is it has acceleration timers. So it gives you acceleration timing from 0 to 60, 0 to 100, 60 to 130. And it also has braking timers from 60 to 0 and 100 to 0. So anyways, this is going to be pretty cool. This is kind of a gadget. Most people don't need this. If you don't have a boosted vehicle, and when I say boosted, I mean turbo boosted, you don't really need this. Probably most of these things are not even of interest to most car owners. But it's kind of cool to have, and it's nice to be able to see more accurate reading than what's artificially limited by the OEM configured instrument cluster. So I say gadget because it's not a need to have, but a nice to have. And I guess maybe for some people, depending on how involved you are in customizing the tuning characteristics of your vehicle, some of this information may be actually more necessary and important to some owners, drivers, operators than others. For me, this is more of a nice to have, kind of cool information to have at my fingertips, and also just give me some additional information that wasn't readily or accurately accessible beforehand. So anyways, as always, if you like this video, please don't forget to hit like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned because there is more to come. Just came back real quick before I get started on this thing because there was a couple things I wanted to mention. Number one, this gauge does one other cool thing, and that is code reading and clearing. So once this thing is installed, you have immediate access to any codes, diagnostic codes that are triggered, and you can do those, you can see them on the fly, and you can clear them on the fly. The other thing I wanted to mention is the list of things that I shared with you that this gauge is capable of displaying, all those different readings that I was reading off to you off of my cheat sheet. Those are a list of things that the gauge is capable of displaying. We're going to find out for sure what it will display in this vehicle, because I think that with every different type of vehicle, these gauges have the ability to display in some cases more, some cases less of the things that are listed. So once we have it connected, we're going to be able to tell exactly which ones of those are available through the OBD port. I'll be really happy if we can get, just looking at this real quick, if we can get the codes, the diagnostic codes, the boost pressure, coolant temperature, what else? Battery voltage, acceleration and braking timers. I think if we can get those things, I'll be really happy with this. Of course, I know that some of the other things like air-fuel ratio, intake air temperature, throttle angle, ignition timing, I know that things like that are going to be also very important to people, especially if you're very involved with tinkering with the programming of your vehicle and the tune and all that kind of stuff. With me, I have an off-the-shelf Softronic tune. I shouldn't call it off-the-shelf, but I have a Softronic tune, which is pretty basic and not entirely customized for my vehicle. But I know that when you get very into customizing the tunes for these vehicles, a lot of those other values may become more important. So anyways, just wanted to throw that out there because I thought it was important. And with that, I'm going to get started on this and look forward to catching up with you in a little bit. See you soon. All right, so here we go with the removal of the driver's side air vent. It's a three-step process. First, we remove this trim piece that goes around the ignition and headlight control. Then we remove this side piece, and then this piece should just slide right out. So you'll want a trim piece remover, and that will assist in, there we go, pops out. You see that right there? You may have to, there we go. And this will just hang there. You could go ahead and also just disconnect this for good measure so you're not pulling on it. And I'm gonna go back and do that once I've got this piece out here. So this piece just pulls out. There's some hooks on the back and it just slides right out, as you see here. And then lastly, this piece should just slide straight out. So let's see if we can get it to do that. maybe it might help a little bit here to get, well, let's see. There we go, I feel it budging. I'm just trying not to pull too hard. There we go. Budges a little bit more. There we go. And here's also another wiring harness you'll want to disconnect. I will be back in just a minute to do that. All right, well, here's what it looks like once all the wiring harnesses are disconnected. All right, so now that you've got the air vent out, you want to start to shimmy this trim piece off, and you'll see that there are these little metal tabs here on all sides, and if you wiggle them a little bit, you don't want to bend them too much, but you want to move them just enough to allow the trim to begin to slide off. I apologize if I'm not keeping it in the field of view of the camera. I'm trying. It's a little tricky, but there we go. I hope you're able to see what I'm doing here. Okay, just wanted to report back that I did manage to separate this. And now what you see is these air vents here. And they're in there loosely, and we want to be careful that we're paying attention to how we remove them, so that way when we put them back, everything works as it should. Alright, so what I am learning here is that in order to put this in, you are going to have to remove these slats. So you will lose the left to right movement of the air. And in order to do that, you kind of have to just bend and shimmy these out a little bit, because they're all connected in the back. So I'm going to try to do that off camera, because it's more important for me not to break this than to get this all captured. Well, here you have it, folks. It fits in perfectly once you get all 5 of those vertical slats out. So just keep in mind that there are 5. All right, and we are going to go ahead and move to putting this back together and then getting this into the car. All right, so the next step in reassembling this is to go ahead and stick this back in where it belongs. And so the first thing I'm going to do is reconnect the wire, this wire here under there. So let me just go ahead and do that. And there it goes. Next, I want to be sure to run this wire. This is the ribbon cable. Probably should have run that first. Let's see here. Just to make sure I got it through. There it is. And then once I've got that in there, make sure none of the other cables are being pinched. Like the wire underneath here, we don't want that to get pinched. And let's see, let's just make sure. We want it to go in nice and easy. Like that. All right, the next step is just getting this cable, this ribbon cable, fed through. And I got it, pulled it right through here on the, underneath the dash. Once you have it pulled through, you can kind of figure out how to tuck this away and figure out how exactly you want to tuck the brain of the gauge under the dash. I'll let you kind of determine what the best way it is to do that in your own vehicle, but I imagine there's a few different places you can tuck this thing in back there. But for now, what I'm going to work on doing is just getting all this put away nicely, reconnecting everything, and seeing how it looks when it's finished. And then what I'll do once everything is looking really nice, I'll make sure to tuck away the wires and everything so that it is completely concealed. So stay tuned, because there's more to come. So at the end of the day, tucking away those wires back there is not all that complicated. You can easily tuck them in behind the carpet there around the fuse panel, and then everything goes back together nice. And let's see how it looks when we start this thing up. I guess since I had it last set at the coolant temperature, that's where it's gonna come up first. And or maybe that's the oil temp. Let's see. Nope, that's the coolant temp. So it's saying 178 there, but it's saying 194 there, which we know that 194 is kind of like the dummy reading. It's to keep people from freaking out when it goes a little above, or I guess below. Not that people would be freaked out about going below. Speed, battery, that's the shifting, oil temperature, 174, same there. Let's see, intake air temperature, throttle, or actually, let's just go back all the way to boost. And there we are. So let's take this car for a drive and see how it performs. Hey guys and gals, I'm back, and I've got the P3 gauge installed. And I gotta tell you, first of all, the look of this thing is really cool. It's definitely got an OEM fit and finish to it. One of the things that I was worried about was how much it would obstruct the air coming out of the vent, and I gotta tell you, it's not an issue at all. I mean, I live here in South Florida, so I want to make sure that if I'm blasting the AC, there's plenty of cold air coming out, and I could feel plenty of cold air coming out of there. You pretty much completely disable all of the slats, the horizontal slats, but you can completely close it behind, which it closes all the air coming to it, or you can have it completely open. And completely open, it's blowing right on me perfectly. I don't even think that I would need to aim the slats up or down. And you know, you can see by my height, I'm probably an average height. I'm about 6 feet tall, but you know, depending on how you like to drive with your seat position. Anyways, I know none of you want to hear about that. You want to know about how this thing works. And look, you can see here it's reading. I have it set right now just to show the coolant temperature, and it's showing 220 F. And you can see on the dash, it's, you know, stuck there at the nanny level of 194, just to make you feel good, make you feel like you're not really overheating or anything like that. But I've had a chance to take this out under wide open throttle and see the different boost pressures that come up, and it indeed is higher on here than I can get here. The highest that I can get on the multifunction display was 17. Here I was up in the 19s, and you know, I don't know if I actually took it to its limit, but I you know, probably didn't, so maybe able to get a little higher. But you can see that's coolant, this is speed, battery, you can see the voltage there. That's to adjust the tell you when to shift. That's the oil temperature. Now you can see the oil temperature showing 217 and 217, so that appears that the oil temperature on the instrument cluster there is correct. Intake air temperature 136. I believe that's exhaust temperature. Ignition timing, throttle looks like it's 12% open right now, you know, so 0 to 60 timer. Anyways, so this thing is really cool. I gotta say that I'm happy I got it. It's one more cool little readout that I can see and give me an idea of what exactly is happening in my vehicle as I'm driving it. Is it something that I needed? Not really. Is it something that's cool to have, nice to have? Definitely. And for people who have their vehicles tuned and want to, you know, dig in more precisely into things like, you know, intake air temperature, exhaust temperature, things like that. You know, remember that you can also add some additional analog sensors and get additional readings there. I mean, this could be a very useful gauge for a lot of people. I'd say for me, it's more of a cool factor and nice to know information. But anyways, so I hope you like this. You know, you may not need it, and that's fine. And if you think this is a waste of money and space on your dash, that's fine too. But if you like it and you like this video, remember, don't forget to hit like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think, and hopefully we will see you soon on the next cool video. Take care, everyone.